Recording. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente with Star Self Astrology in Pittsburgh. This is Astrology Unplugged. Tonight is week number 30. Believe it or not, it's actually about 32. We are the Astrology Chit Chat group, and it's kind of like astrology news. You don't learn astrology here, you do, but it's not an official course. So I like to call it the astrology fireside chat without the fire. And if I say it enough times, probably something will start burning. Tonight it's turning really into like an astrology newsletter because there's so much happening in the news. And I have decided, at least I think it was me, next week I am going to talk about Trump's chart and why you can't get this name out of your sight. Why is the country and the world enveloped with this person? And I'm going to show you what the chart is like. We all know what he seems like. And we're going to go through the chart again, even though I've already done this on YouTube. There's a 90-minute talk about it. I'm going to do it again because it's so critical and things change as time goes on, especially today when he's talking about my army. Okay. What got me off on today was I've been seeing some reports on Scientology. I am not a believer. As a matter of fact, I think it is a cult, and I think it does some good things, but I think it really has a lot of negative things to be kind of scared of. But that's not the point. I'm trying to be a neutral astrologer here and present accordingly. So I knew what was happening. This man you saw so much of on commercials for 20, 30 years, L. Ron Hubbard, a Pisces. He bombarded the airways with Dianetics. He had a great marketing campaign. He has tons of people, and it's based on a lot of really good things that were very much like what Gurdjieff did in Russia. But he went way too far, and it's in his chart, and he became controlling like a cult. He created spies to spy on each other. He put up situations where if you did this or did that, you would be excommunicated, like he was the Pope or something. But anyhow, what started to happen was it started to lose faith, and people started quitting. You don't quit this group. But now what's happening? It's split. And when something splits, it's because truth comes up, it's not handled, and therefore it splits. When truth comes up and you handle it, that's called growth and a new sprout. So when it split, I knew, yes, power corrupts absolutely. I knew not to look at Scientology's chart. I knew to look at the founder's chart before I even looked at it. And Viola, there it is, right in L. Ron Hubbard's chart. You can see what happened. And I watched these interviews with these guys that have been in for many, many years, very advanced, but they split and became independent, which is against their law. So they've split because they felt that, quote unquote, the church had veered off course. That's exactly what happens. When you go away from your mission statement is when you have trouble as a country, as a person. When you veer off course, you're in trouble. Now, you can veer off course consciously. You can do all kind of different things, but when you veer off course, you got trouble because then you got to kind of rope everybody back in, and it ain't pretty. So let's go right to L. Ron Hubbard's chart. And by showing you all these types of charts, you'll see how I do things, and you'll see how astrology can be used in a wide variety of ways. So, first thing I wanted to show you was a meme I found today, which I thought was really good. This is a meme I found on Facebook today, which said, "We better get Trump out of there before the war starts." Anyhow, so I thought that was kind of cool. going into Mr. Hubbard's chart. Here he is. And let's see if you guys can see him. Not yet. So let's stop him again. I'm getting sound from somebody. Somebody not muted? There it is. Okay. We have to mute everybody because we get feedback. Okay. Let me check again here. All right. So you guys see the chart with the moon at the top? And I'm not. Okay. So you can see that Elron, and this is his true birth time, 2:01 in the morning in Nebraska, March 13th, 1911. I think that sound is a slight echo of mine. But you can see that he's the Pisces. We don't know yet how to evaluate the sun next to Eris. I'm still getting, I'm going to have to check this out. Somebody's not muted.
Rick, it might be some of the callers.
I'm checking everybody now, and they all look fine. It must be me. All right. All right, here's L. Ron Hubbard's chart again. Now, here's where the trouble comes in. A typical Pisces is not very dastardly or bossy or dogmatic. You see, the Mars Uranus brings about the fanaticism in his chart in Capricorn. And Capricorn is very well known for, you got to do it this way. It must be this way, one way only. That's a very Capricorn statement. Now, you've got the 3 planets in Pisces, even the Chiron. You've got the Saturn in very rigid Taurus. You've got a very powerful Pluto, meaning a tendency to want to control people in the 7th house. This is where it's problematic. And I'm not going to go into great detail in this chart, but I'm just going to point out to you that what's happened is Neptune is right here now. Neptune is sitting right here. So, what happened to him? Keep in mind, Pluto blows things up, death and rebirth. Neptune dissolves. Uranus blows things and cracks things. It's a revolution. We want something new. Saturn congeals. That's the main verbs that you use. So with Neptune hitting him, even though he's passed away, your chart lives on. That's why I'm showing Da Vinci tonight, and I'm showing Nicola Tesla. Your chart lives on, and I was trying to do research, believe it or not, on why people saw Elvis back around. When had Elvis sightings, there's something, when they first had Elvis sightings, something was going on in his chart. That's what caused it. Your chart lives forever, because you're unique. But anyhow, back to Hubbard, what happened to him is Neptune has hit him recently. That means if Mr. Hubbard's teachings were really in truth, in direction, in line with truth, he wouldn't have had much trouble. What you call kinesiology, if it had tested true instead of false. He's testing false, and that's why these people left him. They went off to teach on their own. Some people stayed. I'm not going to criticize the place because I'm not educated enough about it. They do a lot of things I don't like. But the point is, Neptune caused him to lose people. And they didn't lose it dynamically. The walls did not go knocked down. It's Neptune. They just seeped away. They seeped away quietly. That's how Neptune works. Quietly. Now these people are running their own Scientology type of experiments and education on their own. So he veered off course. Why did he veer off course? Nobody blew him off course, because it's always because your ego. You think you know more than God does. He steered the boat off course. So during that time, it was in danger of totally collapsing. I would think that there's enough intelligence there now to try to right the ship, to try to get it back to the truer principles. I mean, I'm sure the Scientologists are well aware of what tenets were part of the ego of Hubbard and what tenets are really based in truth. But you see how a transit to Mr. Hubbard's chart is symbolic of what happened to the group. Just like transits to Mr. Trump's chart is symbolic of what's happening to the United States and the world. And I've been telling you about this day for months, and today, oh, they dropped the biggest bomb since Hiroshima. Oh, by the way, I gave you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, with Wednesday and Thursday being the two big days. Why? Let me show you why. Let's go back and see. All right. Here is the chart for today. And let me see here. Okay. Here's the chart for today. And you notice right there's the story. The sun has come up at 23, almost 24. It's touching Uranus at 24. Eris is sitting at 23. So this is how it works. The sun is the trigger. So for the past I kept telling you about March 30th, which is when Eris would be together with Uranus, and then along came Mars. Mars is the main trigger. The second trigger in astrology is the sun. So you've had this planet Eris that takes 560 years to go around the circle, 120 years through Aries. And here comes Uranus through. That's why all this craziness. Now the sun joins it today, yesterday. It's another trigger, but the sun's not causing it. It's just piling on. It's triggering it. So the way astrology works was when the big planets sit on other planets, they start an era. And there's tension. And then the other planets come along like Mars and the sun or full moons and trigger the events. So don't get lost today in what happened on this airline and the guy gets his body dragged off the plane, or about this Islamic judge who gets murdered and found in the river. All these events horrific, yes, but you have to look at a broader angle. This is all going on at the same time that the United States chart's going through so much turmoil, so much change. One reason that we can't talk very intelligently about this tonight, or I can't, is we don't know enough about Eris. Eris is a new player. She causes havoc by even putting her on the chart. She's now on all of our charts somewhere in Aries when we were born. She's been in Aries all my life. I will know more as I study a couple hundred charts and see what she represents in the natal chart. But you can see that tonight, Eris is together with Uranus. That's not going to disappear in 5 minutes. That's a 7-year transit. And every time it gets hit, every time 24 degrees Aries, 24 Cancer, etc. gets hit, that same sore point's going to get triggered. So what did I think? I got some emails that were very nice and inquisitive, and interesting. What did I think about the man being dragged off the plane? A 69-year-old doctor. First thing I see is a lawyer is going to get really rich. This is not about a man being dragged off a plane. If you look at the United States chart, Pluto is about to enter the 9th house of the United States chart. Pluto doesn't change houses but every 13, 30 years. Pluto's on the verge of going into the 9th house. The 9th house for a country or for anybody is how you travel. What are your rules about traveling? How those things are ruled. What are the laws? So you can see that it's shaking all this up. But moreover, it's clear to see what's happening. This is another little tiny battle in the Arab Spring, United States Spring that's going on now. We're tired of big companies tossing us around. That's what this thing is about, the plane. In other words, we all got iPhones. That's changed everything till they outlaw them. And they're going to try. So the horrible things that this poor doctor went through, very real. We all saw it. We didn't see the previews of what he went through, how they warned him. We didn't hear the whole story, but we saw graphically the point. The point. They could have walked this man off of there. Okay? So you're seeing again this thing I've been talking about for months and months. Things going down, 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 things going up, 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 called awareness. And the two things are really, really stretching. And hopefully it's being overseen by the Holy Spirit and God, whatever you call it, as we learn and watch. So as astrologers, you need to zoom in and learn about the experience and zoom out and include it in the collective change. We're seeing the collective change. And when the collective change, you can't see it that minute. You can't see the moment that women wanted equal rights. You can't go back to the moment women wanted to vote. You go back to points that the collective experiences. You can't see the moment that it was okay for a woman to call a guy, ask him out on a date. Where was it? And then all of a sudden it was okay. It's gradual. The collective change is gradually. Okay. So then the next question came to me. What's Saturn going to do when this orbiter on April 22nd crashes in to the side, goes through the ice rings and crashes into the side? On TV, we're going to see it crash into Saturn. It's definitely symbolic. I looked up the meaning of that 28th degree of Sagittarius. It had to do with we don't like how things are changing, but we need to build a bridge and keep some of the old things alive, do some of the new things, build the bridge, the old ways and the new ways, which I thought was general but good. You have to understand, you don't dive into this kind of thing and throw out the first thing that comes to you. You have to know what it means. And you don't know what it means in 1 or 2 years. You kind of guess, you kind of sneak up on it, you kind of give your idea, put it out there, let it vibrate, and as the years go by, you get better. And then some year comes along where you know what it means. And you have to just let it be. So through the years, we'll learn what this Saturn significance is. Just like people still trying to learn the significance of Pluto being retired. Now they want to add 80 new planets, which was the whole point about Pluto being repositioned. Okay. So we see very much how, let me see here. Okay, we see very much how one person's chart represents so much. Next thing I looked at today was Kim Jong-un's chart. And I want to show you why I'm alarmed by it. And then I did this horrendous thing, such as mixing his chart together with Mr. Trump. And it was not pretty. But I didn't put a lot of faith in it because I don't have Mr. Un's birth time. And mixing a chart with a birth time and a chart without a birth time is somewhat questionable. But I got glued right to his chart. And I'm going to show you why I'm worried about this guy. All right. Okay. Here's Kim Jong-un. Okay. Kim Jong-un, and it won't show it. So let's try it again. Kim Jong-un. All right, there it is. All right. So you see the fact that he's a Capricorn, and Pluto's sitting right on his sun out of 256 years. I'm hearing somebody's keyboard. I'm not sure who it is. Somebody's keyboard is, I'm hearing it. Can't find it. All right. Okay, there is his chart. So it's not the fact that Pluto's on a sun, even though Pluto is atomic weapons, and it's the general planet behind him, and his sun represents the whole country. Yes, that has me bothered. Yes. And you wouldn't believe how many evil empire dictators have moon in Pisces. You just wouldn't believe it. I just see it all the time. And it's not that the moon in Pisces is evil. It's just that it doesn't put up much of a fight against the other planets. But the trouble in its chart a couple places. Pluto Mars being separated by 3-4 degrees can be, often is. I will just shove down your throat what I want to. Being heavy-handed. Saturn in Scorpio can be very tough. I will draw the line in the sand, and I'm serious about it. A bucket pattern to Chiron in Taurus. The whole thing's a bucket, and Chiron's in Taurus, which means I want something, I will just keep pushing till I get it. And I will push and obtain what I want because I'm going to just keep pushing. None of these things are the issue. They're all issues that perk my ears up a little bit. But the trouble is right here. The trouble is right here. You've got 4 planets in Sag. And in case you don't know this, I'm going to tell you how it is. Sag is the sign, and I'm talking about the sign of Sagittarius. Not the fact that you know Sag is, but the sign itself loses control. It has no control. It cannot control itself. Our dear president has a sun in Gemini and a moon in Sagittarius. So when you have too much Sagittarian energy, which can come about from your moon and Venus and Mars, doesn't have to be your sun sign, you got the guy who's on the verge of losing control. Why? Because Sagittarian energy does not understand Saturn. It does not understand restraint. It just says, oh yeah, I'll just let it fly. How's that? The main story is this, and I'm going to repeat it till I'm blue. The times are not the way they've been. In the past, people messed with us. We raised our saber, and they all backed down. It's not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen anymore. The U.S. is being challenged. It's being shown its dirty laundry about the abuse of energies. Our known enemies are going to rise against us, and they're not going to back down. I'm not saying they're going to loose a nuclear weapon, but we're getting closer to this. This is not This is not light. This is very serious time. So when you go back to his chart, keeping that in mind, the Venus-Uranus, I mean, the last thing you need is Venus and Sag next to Uranus. This is like, what the hell? Let's just do it. Hey, let's go. Thank God this guy's got a sun in Capricorn. Thank God he's got something in Taurus to make you somewhat earthbound. And he's got Mercury in Capricorn. But the problem is he's got Jupiter next to Neptune next to Mercury. Right there is the problem. Right there. Because Jupiter Neptune can be wonderful. It really can be. But if you're not with it, it makes you feel God inspired. I'm told by God to do this. I'm inspired by God. If few people got to die, hey, think of the idealism. Think of the seats we'll get in heaven. And not only is it Jupiter Neptune, but it's 2 degrees from his mind, Mercury. This is the trouble. This is the trouble spot. And where is Saturn? 28. Saturn is right here, right now in the middle. And thank God Saturn's there, because Saturn is the one planet that can stop this guy. Now, how does it stop it? Saturn doesn't come along and say, oh, I see you're about to let go of a big one. Let's go down and stop him. Saturn is in his chart, coming up through him. So while he's got this feeling, I'm decreed by God, I've got to do these things for my people, and my mind says go do it, his Saturn is also there saying, I better hold on, I better be cautious, do I really want to do this? But that's the danger in this chart, the Jupiter, Neptune, Mercury. Because you truly believe, in some sense, that he's supposed to do it. I don't know where I'm getting this constant microphone that's open. I'm going to look again. Let's take one more look here.
Hey, Rick, Mark posted this. It's whoever.
I found it. It was a 732 phone number.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Okay. So do you understand that it's not always easy to know which chart to look at? Another thing that I'm seeing, and this will answer your questions. I don't know why it's not showing up here. Okay. Susan, I'm going to ask you to turn your camera to the side, please. Can you hear me?
Larry's muted too.
Which Susan are you talking to?
Susan A., could you move your camera to the side, please? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, Rick, Larry is unmuted too. He hasn't muted.
Okay. All right. I think it was Larry, but we're all right now. Okay. Is that some of you have come in late? Welcome. Let's hear. We're going to mute her audio. Okay, now we got it. Okay. One of the things that people don't understand is this. Why is Trump getting away with what he's getting away with? Why do some leaders that you don't understand how they're getting away agree with it? Why do they keep getting away with it? You see, it's got nothing to do with your opinion. The reason people get away with murder, get away with stuff, has got nothing to do with the collective thinking. It's got nothing to do with what you think. What matters is how they think. And if they believe they're okay, and if they believe they deserve it, and they believe they deserve no slack, and they believe they're right, then that's how their world is. Period. And I had the huge dismay of doing Mr. Trump's chart for next year and found Jupiter right on his ascendant. And one could say he's got protection and divine providence protecting him next year. That's not the case. The case is he keeps believing. It doesn't matter if he's deluded or not. What matters is what he believes. And when you watch, sadly, I'm gonna extrapolate for a second. I think there's too much of the United States that is comfortable as long as some leader appears to be strong. Hawkish, the days of Goldwater. So you have to remember that. Now, questions so far? Any questions on the chart you've seen? I saw a Facebook exchange today that said, oh yeah, criticize him? Well, wait till they stop dropping bombs here. Wait till they start dropping bombs in the USA. First of all, that's not what we're going to do. That's not the answer. The answer is what's causing these people to want to. We've got to change the dialogue. Right, Judith? We've got to change the dialogue. And the people that think we're going to drop a big bomb in the little part of Pakistan, Afghanistan, we're going to wipe out the enemy. This is not 1945 anymore. Once again, it's back to us changing the way we dialogue and represent ourselves with other countries. And if we don't, we're going to get wiped out. And that doesn't mean by bombs. It could be economically. We just got to change our dialogue. That's what it's all about. All right. I went back to the United story, the United Airlines, who's worth $30 billion, and they can afford to give you a little tiny bit of crackers or peanuts, $30 billion. I went back and I researched, and I found that their original name was the Varney, Varney Airlines. And I worked up their chart, and here's the Varney Airlines. Okay, let's see if it paints it. No, it doesn't. All right. And as you could see, in the Varney Airlines, there's a Chiron sitting at 27 of Aries. Saturn is hitting it, but the minor transit is not going to do this kind of trouble. It's going to take something major. So what I did to the Varney Airlines is I did the 10th harmonic. Now what that is, this is another chart that has to do with the Varney Airlines public perception. How does the public view this company? Remember, this is the predecessor to United Airlines, okay? And when you look at their 10th harmonic, which is their public position, I mean, can you imagine what's going to happen to them at the stock market tomorrow? I went in, and what did I find? Let's see here. Neptune is sitting right here. Neptune, they're having a Neptune return. A Neptune return in this chart. 186 years, Neptune is back here at Neptune, opposite the sun. So what's happening with that chart? They are being seen naked in terms of how much do they really care about people? How much does it really mean when you say, fly the friendly skies? I think we can kiss that phrase goodbye. The Neptune got them. You can't, that's why I tell you folks, you can't get past the outer planets because you just can't. They're the archetypal truth that underlie all things. So we see that their very public persona, minus all their PR, all their fixers, all their spinners, Neptune brought it down, took the illusion out of the way, and showed them for what they are. Now, then I went and I saw where United Airlines, it took over and it became United Airlines. And I did the chart for United Airlines. Here's United Airlines, and you can see very Aries-like. I'm going to wait for it to paint here. I'm not sure why it doesn't. Let's see here. Here's United Airlines. Okay, lots of Aries planets, all these planets together in Aries right now. All this stuff at 24, squaring this moon, etc. And Pluto is sitting at 1819. Right here, is sitting right here opposite Pluto. Pluto opposite Pluto. From the 7th house, it's about, are you performing your mission or are you not? That's what Pluto does. Pluto is your soul. It's that simple. And I don't care what they said with their fly to friendly skies. We saw somebody in the back of the airplane with an iPhone on that videotaped something that has a lot to do with their soul. And we just took a few flights, and I was talking with Liza earlier. What happens when you're in an airplane? People are really well behaved. They're really trying to hustle to their seat. They're really sitting in a little tiny box. They're trying to eat with their fingertips, read their little magazine. People are pretty cool. And they can't get us any tighter spaces, but people have had it. They're fighting back now. And now you're going to see all these new public affairs avenues that they're going to try. But you're seeing another symbol of the plutocracy of the machine versus the revolution of the people. People are going to put up with it. Okay. Another thing I saw this week that really, we'll get to her chart in a minute. I saw a billboard that said, you'd better obey Jesus. The Lord. And I just don't think that there's some guy up there that's got these rules for me and he's watching how I do on a scorecard. And I really think we have projected our mean old fathers up there. He's going to come down and whoop our butt if we don't behave. And that's one of the beautiful parts of this seesaw that's getting better. We're learning, we're learning, we're learning, we're learning. There are so many people I talk to in the South, so many Bible belters who are in the closet and they're saying, I don't believe this stuff anymore, but I can't breathe a word in my community. Well, they're starting to. And they're starting to believe in a just God. And they're starting to believe in a Jesus who is our friend and he is our field of consciousness. And it's a very complex subject, Christ consciousness, but we don't have to obey rules. Once we get normalized, we'll act normally, which is to love and it is to include. We won't have to think about it in terms of obeying and breaking rules. And this is one of the reasons I was telling Judith today in her reading. One of the reasons why we're crashing with the Middle East is because they can't believe that we're so free from this thinking that we have to obey. Because the Middle East is all about obeyance. Obey. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I admire their dedication, but they're scared to death to be found not obeying. Well, we do not have a dictator up there. Where is he? Behind Mars? Behind the Crab Nebula? Where? Where is he? It's all changing. Thank God, and I'll repeat again, you women got to get with it because the guys ain't going to do it. So come on, women. lead the way. Mother of all bombs today, L. Ron Hubbard. Let me get through my final two, Da Vinci and Tesla. I read a book by Tesla about his life, a Cancer with a very strong Pluto. And it was so delightful for you astrologers to have the guy's chart of his life next to you while you're reading her biography. And you can see, well, then this came into his life, and this, he got married, and you see these planets come across, and he got divorced, and he did this invention. You see, watching the planets come through his chart. Everybody else is just reading the book saying, oh, that's what happened. That's what happened. Well, Mr. Tesla, do you know what he did? Do you know what he did for fun? Now, I'll rewind you a little bit. He was the real inventor of alternating current. He was kind of shy, a fourth house sun in Cancer, very sensitive, very closed down. He never dated anybody. He wasn't gay, he just never dated. He was very kind of ultra shy. You know what he did for fun? He'd stay up on the weekends blowing up stuff and passing tons of current through his body with him and his buddy, drinking and passing tons of current through their bodies because he was so good with electricity. He never got hurt because he knew what to do. Guess who his buddy was? Mark Twain. He and Mark Twain would sit up at night and pass tons of current through their body and watch light bulbs explode while he experimented. They thought it was just great fun. But anyhow, Mr. Tesla was a genius, mainly because of Pluto rising, but he was almost self-defeating in being able to promote himself, while his nemesis, Mr. Edison, was rather ruthless and chopped him down to size, stole a lot of his patents, etc. But we can see, and the reason I brought Tesla up is, why are we talking about Tesla now when he's been undiscovered for so long? Why are we talking about Da Vinci since 2006, when the movie, the Da Vinci Code came out, and it all goes back to their chart? So, we'll close down that one, and we'll pull up Da Vinci's chart. Now, what's interesting about Da Vinci, you think April 15th, in 1452 that he's an Aries, but he was not an Aries. And did you know that, did you know, you probably heard this one, if somebody ever comes to you and tells you about somebody who was born September 10th in 1752, September 10th, 1752, they're lying, because nobody was born on September 10th of 1752. There was no September 10th of 1752. The Pope had to skip 10 days and omit 10 days from the calendar, which is what made Da Vinci and Aries turn into a Taurus. So we make up for this leap year all the time, and eventually we became 10 years out of whack. So when you went to bed in 1752, when you went to bed on September 2nd, you woke up on the 14th. It's the only time in history that was ever done. And because of that shift, because when you look at Da Vinci's pictures, he looks like an Aries and he acted like one because he's so dynamic, he's really a Taurus. And according to computers, scientific computers, with their analysis, Mr. Da Vinci has the highest IQ ever rated, ever. Number one, 210. All he did, he was outside playing in the mud, picking out the straw, trying to make this, trying to patch this, trying to find a better type of paint here, a paint that would dry faster here. He was so Taurus. He was in the elements. He was always drawing up things, and he was a great student, and he was a great apprentice with artistry and with his sculpting. But he was into the earth. He was into the stuff. He just never stopped experimenting with stuff. Plus, he was total genius anyway. Now, when you talk about genius, whether it's some great quarterback that can throw the ball unbelievably, or whether it's some great ballet dancer or some great guitarist, you're always going to find tremendous connection to the outer planets, or else you can't do it. You can't do it. I'll guarantee you, if it's Hendrix, it's Uranus, because his guitar sounded like Uranus. Look in his chart, and it was. If it's somebody heavy duty, like Patton, it's Pluto, and it was. Somebody ultra beautiful, it's Neptune, and it is. You've got to have the connection between your inner planets and your outer planets to deliver that power of those outer planets, which is where the universal power emanates. So, going to Da Vinci's chart, we see right away the incredible Neptune right on the midheaven, 0 degrees. This is somebody who has a direct channel to the heavens. Now, he could be lost, he could lose it, but this man is so absolutely inspired, and Tauruses are not inspired. Tauruses, like I told you earlier, Judith, about Libra, Tauruses don't look up. They look down into the mud, into the ground, into the construction, into the building. They're not interested. They're not interested. They're Archie Bunker. They're in their hobbit hole. But a guy with Neptune at the midheaven is called, and has tremendous inspiration from on high. And in the life of Einstein, he lived into be 1952, 1953 or something. Back in 1905 were his 3 major inventions, discoveries, that he got 3 Nobel Prizes for in 1905, 50 years before he died. Why? Because Neptune was going over his midheaven in 1905. They called that the magical years. They don't know what they're talking about. Do you realize how much a country needs its own official astrology department? I mean, I'm telling you the truth. That's why, because the channels were open. So in the case of a natal chart, like with Mr. Da Vinci, this channel was always open. This is not happenstance. This is because he had many lifetimes opening that channel and securing it. The guy was brilliantly dedicated. He didn't talk much. He didn't have time for human-to-human debate. He just wasn't that interested. He was just interested in digging into his stuff, his paints and his oils and all this, and creating his beautiful, phenomenal art. So what else do we see? What caused Mr. Da Vinci in 2006? Why is he kind of sleepy in our consciousness till 2006 when the Da Vinci Code comes out? Do you see these 2 planets? Very, very powerful, powerful planets. Uranus and Pluto. Uranus and Pluto. These are the 2 planets that when they came together caused the 60s. Well, by progression, by moving 1 planet per day, move each day of his life, let's see, each day of his life after his birth, Uranus moved closer. And all those years from 1452 to 2006, in 2006, these 2 planets lined up. So by secondary progression, from his birth till 2006, that Uranus was moving closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer by progression, which is one way of moving or advancing the planets or seeing the soul unfold. In 2006, they were conjoined, and boom, out came the movie, even though it was distorted, but we all saw the brilliance of Da Vinci. This is why it happened. So the dead, their charts live on. Let me go back for one final minute here. Okay, back to Mr. Da Vinci. Usually when you have somebody like Jung or the Freud or the brilliant ones, every planet's significant, every single placement. Look how his Saturn is opposite Mercury, so he gets an idea, which he's aggressive about in Aries, and he's able to put it to form, give form to it. He's got these two magnificent, powerful planets in his 8th house of digging behind the scenes, okay? His moon is very strong in sensitive Pisces, making him an artist. Here's the Chiron in Gemini. This is why he just try this, try this, try this, try that. Tauruses don't try all kinds of things. They find one thing and stay with it forever. But with the Chiron in Gemini, this is what he did. So you can see in this chart what I'm saying, whether it's Shakespeare or whether it's anybody, your grandmother, whatever it is, their chart lives on. The final chart I want to show to you before I get into hers is the chart of, well, I've done all the three then. Okay, that's good. So there are lots of things to talk about, and I think before we get into her chart tonight, I want to announce here that according to the list of people who write to me privately, Jericho's chart will be tonight, Shirley will be next week, and then Robert. So if you would like to get on the list, supply me with your data, please, and write to me at rick@starself.com. Oh, by the way, astrology class starts Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. I'll be sending you a complete information packet and diagrams with instructions, and maybe we can ask Karen S. to tell us what you're in for by entering a beginning class with me.
Lots of fun. Lots of fun, lots of laughter, lots of learning. Nobody makes the planets come alive more than you.
Well, I was very blessed with Karen to start a group in 2006. We carried on for a long time, and I gave these people 10-minute breaks, and they wouldn't take them. Well, I mean, we really got into it. It was just an excellent group, and we had at least 10 sessions, 10 different groups of sessions. And they've all turned out to be pretty fine, good old astrologers, and they all use it in their own way. You don't have to become an astrologer, or some do, but it will definitely replace the underpinnings of what you do as a healer, as a psychic, whatever. I'm very anxious to see how Miss Karen D down in Florida puts it to use with her healing. Okay.
We all became astrology groupies following Rick.
It was not pretty. No, it was really wonderful. I'm looking forward to it, and it will not be videotaped. Okay. All right. I'm going to Yvonne, I've taken your non-camera here. I've unmuted you because I'm going to be reading now for Yvonne's daughter, who has been patiently waiting for about a month. Her name is Jericho. And I really like doing this because you heard me babble for an hour about all these different things. It's just a very difficult subject to talk about. It really is. Those of you who are waiting for class, do not be worried. We're going to start out very basic. And believe me, I've done this so much, you'll learn a lot faster than you think. A lot faster than you think. Because the collective has changed. So we're now on to Jericho's chart, who's not Leonardo da Vinci. You never know with this chart. She's got a lot of Pisces power. Okay, there's Jericho, and we see the very powerful Neptune at the top. Okay, so we got a Pisces who has Aries rising, and that's good right away because you got the non-ego with the ego. And if Pisces need anything, they need more ego. They need more self. So that helps having the Aries and the Jupiter in Aries. But we've got a sun in the 12th house, so this is like a double Aries, a double Pisces, because this 12th house for everybody is like dipping that planet into Pisces energy. So this is like a double Pisces right here. The rising sign is Aries. I do not know what to say about Eris, so I just won't comment because I'm not sure yet how powerfully it impacts a birth chart, but my hunch is it really does because it's found right on the ascendant within 43 minutes, which is 2/3 of a degree. That's how close it is. So it's my hunch, Miss Jericho, I think you should do some reading on the meaning of Eris, and I think you might find a lot of things to align with. In my early readings with Eris, she is quite the energy that's bringing about the divine feminine. Do you identify heavily with that?
Absolutely, Rick.
Okay. All right. Then I think you really should write this down. Go to a website called Dark Star Astrology. Dark Star Astrology. And search there about the meaning of Eris and read about her mythology. And astrologically, through experience, I say to you that she's extremely powerful in your chart, but I can't speak to it yet because I don't have enough personal experience with it.
Rick, it looks like the recording's still on.
It's good. Thank you.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm glad you told me that. Okay, the moon is found in Scorpio, and it's next to Pluto. That's like the moon being in Scorpio 6 times. So this is a very emotional person. Moon in Scorpio next to Pluto. Moon in Scorpio next to Pluto. Neptune at the top. Sun in Pisces in the 12th. This is one very emotional person. Very emotional. And whenever I see a strong Neptune, I always think what we have to do is address the possibilities, which are so common. Is she martyristic? Is she hanging on the cross too much? Does she blame herself too much? These are all quite common with Neptune individuals. And I will dig into her 12th harmonic tonight to see if I think that's the case. But just by seeing her Neptune there, that is so powerful. That means she's the type of person who had a calling from a very early age to the convent, to a spiritual group, to a yoga teacher, to being a priest, well, whatever. But that's very, very powerful. I don't care what her sun sign is. And she is a 12th house sun. And she's got the Aries in her to say, well, I think I'll do that, I'll go do it. So we've got the question, why is the Neptune so strong? What is she doing with that moon Pluto? It's so intense, such tremendously strong emotions. Okay? These are some of my early questions I have as I'm forming the reading. Okay, now back to Jericho. Okay, the Saturn is in Sag in the 9th house with Uranus, very powerful planets in her 9th house. This means that the 9th house is the house mainly of your philosophy. If the 3rd is Gemini, and that's your mind, the 9th is your philosophy. Your mind, your broader mind, your little mind, your big mind. 9th house is about your philosophy. So this gal is very, very intellectual. She loves to read. She won't stop reading. And with all of this activity of three of the 4 major planets sitting in her 9th house, I would say to you that her collegiate experience has been nutso. It stopped, it was good, then it started, then it was chaos, then it was confused, then it stopped and it went. What happened with your college education, Jericho?
The story
Really what?
is a very unique one.
Well, you're 30 years of age, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, you call it unique. Can you give us a paraphrase? What happened with your college efforts, and what kind of studies did you approach?
I actually have not been to college. I was homeschooled my whole life.
All right.
And my education, as it were, started from the beginning of my life. My
Okay.
grandmother was my teacher, and an excellent teacher and a brilliant mind.
Okay, so we see right away how unique that was. That was because of the Uranus, which allowed you to have that. Are you thinking of going for higher ed?
I get asked that a lot, and my answer is always that I don't have as much interest in academic subjects as I do spiritual subjects. And
Okay, that's wonderful answer. Okay. Very good, and that's probably because of the Sagittarius in here, not wanting to be limited. What I do like here, even though this is Neptune in Capricorn. So when you look at the person's midheaven, which is their indicator of their career, and you see Neptune there, you see a very strong desire to be spiritual. We've already seen in her 9th house that she's into avant-garde, individualistic ways of doing it, but yet there's Capricorn at the top. So what that can mean, and usually it dials me in somewhat close, and I'm not complete yet, but I get pretty close. She's going to have a desire to spiritualize an existing entity. She's not going to want us talking to Judith today. She's not going to want to go off in the woods and build this new kumbaya discovery, wild way of doing out there, healing center and lock it down. She's going to want to go back into Capricorn, existing technology, existing buildings, existing structures, institutions, and she's going to want to spiritualize them. And that's what you'll be drawn to and led to, because that's what the chart says. What do you think, Jericho?
I most certainly see it, yes.
Okay. Now, you see, if Capricorn weren't there, she would have a desire to develop her own, etc. Okay, so we have to blend all things as we read. Okay. I'm assuming, I've never met you, but I'm assuming that you're smart enough to know that you don't need to worry about how you know you're going to be led. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
One of the beautiful things about reading for Judith today is I got to the end of the reading and I sweat when my clients ask me, oh yeah, but how am I going to do it? And I knew with Judith that didn't even come up. Judith has so much faith in Christ, faith in the Christ, faith in the Holy Spirit. She knew it's going to come up through her. What today was for Judith was the separation from the past life. Today was her liberation. It was her liberation, capital L. It was marvelous, really. Okay, back to the chart. Now, we see the Venus is very powerful here. It's in Aquarius, and it's in Aquarius's house, 11. So we see she's very, very friendly. Now, some Pisces are more closed out. All depends. But what's at the base of this T-square? Pluto is 9, Mars is 17, and they both go to Venus. Okay, these are the two sexual planets. Venus and Mars, 17, 17, square to each other. Now, this is for certain. When you have your two sexual planets or socializing planets square to each other, what happens is the yin is the Venus, the acceptance. The yang is the Mars, the male part. I'll ask you out. You'll say yes or no. But when they're square, what this usually occurs as If she calls a guy up, she feels awkward for calling. If she sits there and waits, she feels awkward for waiting. Whatever she does, she questions it because those two planets are not in harmony. If those two planets had a red line between them and they were in harmony, she would do what's right, she would have charm, and she wouldn't be awkward about it. But what happens with her, she gets mixed up. Whenever she gets aggressive, the Venus kicks in and says you're being too aggressive. When she gets passive with the Venus, the Mars kicks in and says you need to be more aggressive. She constantly has to work at these two things about herself. But what the real basis of the T-square is, the Pluto-Mars, which is a tendency from a past life to be overbearing, and that could be people around her were overbearing. She was forced into the military, forced into the army, whatever, but she had to deal with overbearing information, overbearing situations, and she tried to solve it and probably was pretty darn successful by just putting it out to her friends. Her release is her friends, meeting new people, tolerant, meeting new people, loving people. So true or false?
Absolutely true on the dot.
Okay, very good. That's where that comes from. Now, I could go into lots and lots of different things, but I'm not going to. I want to take a moment here, though, because I'm learning more and more that the seventh house, well, it is the house of marriage, and a lot of astrologers predict how many times you get married, how many kids you're going to have, all that stuff. That's not what I do. I've learned the seventh house is much more about you becoming a counselor, what type of counselor you will be, and also what role do you want to play with the public. It's really important. So we don't know for sure, and I'm leaning towards teacher healer, and healing with Chiron and Gemini would mean that you would be a jack of all trades, like our Karen DeBerry. She can heal on many, many different levels, and that's what the Gemini provides to you. But I'm seeing here that this passion that's in your seventh house is different than the Pisces. The Pisces in you heals by letting things be. Come on in, give you a cup of tea, pet my cat for a while, chill out, get healed that way. With Pluto Mars there, Pluto Moon there, you don't heal that way. You heal by pulling up your sleeve, digging in, and wanting to get the root of the problem, throw it out, and transform the person. A lot of Pisces people, when they get those kind of energies, they want to work with things that are Piscean, which is drug and alcohol problems. So don't be surprised if you're attracted to working in the drug and alcohol field. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, tell me what you are attracted to.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Tell me what you feel pulled to as far as your life direction.
You had mentioned counseling others, and that's something that I feel comes very, very naturally to me.
Your microphone is kind of low. Did you say counseling others?
Counseling others, yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. And when you counsel them, what kind of counseling would you like to do?
I've never thought of it as far as an intent or direction. I feel as if I have become a counselor by others seeking me and my advice. And I have been adaptive enough to be able to cater to the needs that as they find me.
That's perfectly said, and that is an exact Neptune answer. I'm going to send you directions so you can turn your microphone up, okay? I'm going to cut and paste this, and on the lower left corner of your screen is a button that you need to modify, and then if you follow these directions, here they are.
I already got it, Rick.
All right. John's a step ahead of me. If you follow those directions on the lower left button, put your cursor down there, You should be able to turn your microphone up a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to tell you why this is remarkable. When non-Piscean people come to me and we get past their blockages, I can usually help people find their life direction. Get rid of their blockage. They're not Piscean. Doesn't mean Pisces sun sign. They don't have a lot of Neptune. When Piscean people come to me, people with strong Neptunes, you can't give them an answer. And the reason you can't give them an answer is because they're too big. You can't shoehorn them into a little shoe. I almost say it like this, and I actually believe this. God knows what he wants, and he'll use you at the last minute on any kind of case he wants. You're his gal Friday. He knows he can send you in any situation because you know what's important in any situation. And that's why you don't need to be locked into a certain specific role. And I see it all the time with Piscean type individual, especially with all that Sag in your chart. You want to try everything. And all the Gemini, you want to try everything. You don't want to be locked down to a 9 to 5. So I like what you said, and I think it's very much in sync with your chart. When you get there, you'll know, and when you start to do your work, you'll know you'll need to do the work in a certain way because you know to let God flow through you.
Absolutely.
Right. You're not like Trump who's talking about, well, my army does this, and my armed forces do this, and watch what I do. You're the opposite. Is this making sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. This is so pleasant. It's like you've known me my whole life.
Well, you know what? I haven't. It's just that I know the archetypes, and it's just that you've been thinking all this time that it was you. That's what we do. We think it's us. But it isn't us. We are the archetypes. I'm going to start a store. A store. We are the archetypes. Archetypes are us. Okay, now, I'm going to take you into your past life and it's not really the past life, let me make it clear. It's kind of like your spiritual history, your spiritual transcript in general, accumulated before you took this life. Let's see what it shows as to why you put the moon, Pluto, and Scorpio. Why did you put Neptune at the top of the chart? Why did you put all these planets in the 12th house? Okay, and we'll get an idea that will lead towards your hero's journey. Okay? So, let's take a look. And Jericho's okay. All right, there's your 12th harmonic. It's trying to paint. I'll get it here. Okay, it's trying to paint. There it is. Okay, this is the general description of your past lives, and what I say it is, it's how close you got to getting back to God. And most of these 12th harmonics for us humans have to do with you didn't try hard enough, you weren't pure enough, you weren't spiritual enough, you didn't pray enough. I mean, it's just all these things of mea culpa, and so many people are breaking through. And the fact that you're having this reading tonight is a very clear indication that you're ready to break through a lot of this. Notice right away, where are the 2 planets tonight? There are 24 Aries. Eris, 3 planets. Eris, the Sun, and Uranus are at 24 Aries right there, square to that Pluto. Here's your dominating planet from the past life. Pluto at the top, which meant you didn't mess around. You meant business. And what do we see in your past life? Very clearly, right across the ascendant. Mercury opposite Chiron and Libra. So there's no doubt whatsoever in my mind, you were a relationship counselor. That's what you did. With the Libra, with the Chiron, with the Mercury there, you dealt with relationships and fixing relationships. I don't know what level, but that's what it's all about. And now that Chiron, now that all these energies are at 24 and they're squaring this Pluto, what's happening to you is this. Very few of us get away with, I want to go do this, I go do this, I'm fine. Your chart was, you had the ability, you had the experience, you had the pizzazz, Venus and Mars and Scorpio. You had the pizzazz, the charisma, but Pluto was always on you. It was saying you had to make it purposeful. You had to do it to the masses. You had to go out and heal everybody, all right? This is one of the mortal sins of Pisces. This is one of the big problems of Pisces. You got to save the world. And you got to stop doing that. It doesn't work. It's not possible. And you have to convert it from saving the world to saving yourself. And that's a complete switch for you. If you talk with Judith, who's an expert on the Course in Miracles, or any Course in Miracle expert like we have coming up, change yourself. The world will then change. That's what your reading is about tonight. But that's what happened to you in your past life. You had the goods. You had the talent. You had the knowledge. You had the experience. But you kept being bugged because there was still one guy in Ethiopia who wasn't saved. And Pisces is the sign of guilt. Oh, 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 oh. You understand?
I still feel all of those aspects from that past life chart very prominently. I've been very aware of them my entire life.
But you're changing them.
I have, and right before we got on with you, we had a very serious conversation about the strides I've made.
And the reason why is you're ready. That's why. The collective is letting you go, and you're letting go. And we've talked about this as the end of mea culpa. We're not going to get anymore by sleeping on a rock, by making us eat one muffin a day. Oh, poor me, oh, poor me. Oh, give me Christ's wounds to my hands. Those days are gone. They're misunderstanding. They're gone. Again, Susan F. Again, we watch another person liberate tonight. Another person go through blessings, and divine grace comes down upon them and affirms them and confirms them, and now she can go. It's unbelievable. I got the greatest job in the world watching these things happen. So what do you think, Jericho? And when are you going to turn your camera on?
It doesn't work.
Oh, well then get one that does. What do you think so far?
I found particular interest when you were describing how I was a counselor for relationships, because I find
no doubt,
very, very naturally a peacekeeper and communicator and counselor between the relationships of my coworkers, my friends, people who are at odds. I'd never really thought about it being anything special. It came so very naturally and flowed from me.
That's right. But the problem with that is it's a good way to avoid yourself.
She's always trying to fix everybody else.
Yeah, but that has to change. And Mark just said he's going to send you his camera to you. And I'm going to say no to Mark because I want Mark to start using his camera. Maybe we'll chip in a nickel and get on a camera. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop right now and with the videotape because it gets pretty long. Thanks all you listeners out there in YouTube land.